I've got some details about the lore and potential NPCs arriving in the upcoming Valheim Mistlands update. Stick around to find out more. Hey everybody, welcome to Metarune. We recently welcomed Lee Williams to our Podheim podcast. Lee is the writer for all of the lore in Valheim. This covers the runstones to your dreams, item descriptions, basically any textual content in the game. He's a great guy, and it was an amazing conversation. We really learned a lot. In the podcast, we discuss any and all things lore in Valheim, but Lee shared a few special teasers about the lore coming in the Mistlands update. This includes more interactions with the gods, info about an ancient civilization of Valheim, as well as some tidbits of what we can expect to see in the Ashlands. We've started to see traces of this ancient civilization in posts from Irongate. Check out my last video if you haven't seen it. So I figured I'd cut out these excerpts for you to check out. I highly encourage you to have a listen to the full episode. We'll definitely have him back after the Mistlands dropped, as he was an excellent guest, so thanks, Lee. If you're interested in more Valheim interviews and news coverage, check out our Podheim podcast, which drops every Friday on Jirok the Vikings channel. There were also 3 new Mistlands images that were leaked today by Robin, aka Grimcore. I'll kick you off with those, and then I'll continue on with all of the other images we've seen released from the Mistlands thus far. Enjoy the interview, and I hope you're as stoked for the Mistlands as I am.
I'm Lee Williams. I'm a writer from the UK, and my contribution to Valheim really was I along with Richard, came up with the basic story for the world, and then I wrote all the lore text. So I mean, there's not a huge amount in the game, but the dreams, the runestones, the item descriptions, any sort of incidental text in the game. And I've been writing for video games for quite a few years now. Lots of different things. I knew Richard from quite a few years back from some forums, from developer forums, and when he was making a game called Toroko, which was a sort of, like I said, a proto Valheim, I guess. It was a game that was going to be set in space on a sort of John Carter-esque world. I'd still love to see him do it one day, but I think as I say, it was more like a dry run for Valheim. And anyway, I sort of reached out to him and said, "Would you like any writing for that?" And we worked together on that for a while, and then eventually he went off to make Valheim. He asked me to come on and do some of the writing for it. So that was how I fell into writing for Valheim, really.
I assume there's probably nothing you can share, but I'm just curious if there is anything that you could share, any like fun lore ideas or anything that you have in mind for the Mistlands or the Ashlands or Deep North, whether it's speculative or not. But
I'd love to be able to share lots of things. The Mistlands is going to be very exciting. I think I watched your interview with Robin earlier, and I know he said the same thing. But the Mistlands is going to be really exciting. Past the Mistlands, as I say, I don't think in lore terms, at least, nothing is set in stone yet. I think I can probably say that. What can I say? I'm trying to think what I'll get into trouble for saying, and what
we don't want to get you in trouble.
No. I could probably say that there's going to be a lot more answers in terms of the lore, very, very soon, and you might see more from the gods in the near future. I think I can probably that's as far as I should go.
Okay.
When coming up with the mythologies and the writings that you include in Valheim, whether it be the dreams or the runestones, or maybe even the intro text, did Richard have any guidelines about how you guys would, how far you would deviate from Norse mythology, or how closely you would try to follow Norse mythology? Or was it okay to pull a little bit from that and then a little bit just from your imaginations?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we did discuss that particularly. I think we did. We never kind of laid out, specifically, how close we were going to stick to the mythology and how much we would deviate from it. I think we sort of did that, step by step, with each piece of lore. In general, I think I think we've probably ended up, I would say, maybe sticking a bit more closely to the mythology than I'd thought we would. When we started, I think, as I remember it, I can't speak for Richard, but as I remember it, I think he was kind of more or less, he was prepared to kind of play quite fast and loose with the mythology and do our own thing. But we seem to, I think once we hit on the idea of having Valheim as a 10th world, suddenly it fitted, because I know to start with, we thought of, well, Valheim could be anywhere. It only needs to be loosely tied to Norse mythology. Maybe actually it's just a like Norse influenced fantasy world. I think we had all these sort of ideas. So we were considering, just maybe it was just slightly influenced. But then when we hit on the idea of having Valheim, as the 10th world connected to the other worlds, suddenly it began to, like, things began to drop into place, and we saw a way to actually have it connected quite closely with Norse mythology. Obviously the big change being that we've added a whole new world of our own onto it. Yeah, I think from then on we've stuck a bit more closely than I'd realized we would. Obviously some of it, like, the bosses and so on, we've used a lot of our own imagination for them.
So, Tolkis mentioned earlier that really enjoying the Draugr lore, and it's one of the runestones that we have a little bit more lore on. One of the others that we have a lot of lore, a longer lore on, is also the Surtlings, because it's referring to the demon Surtur. And it says, long ago, the great demon Surtur was brought down and destroyed by the first men, giant warriors of whom you are but a dwindling echo. So I'm wondering, is that when it says giant warriors that we are but a dwindling echo, is that referring to men or giants or some other type of a human being like us, or were they just the same as us but maybe just better Vikings than us?
That's there's funnily enough, I've got some of that will be explained in a bit more detail later on, but essentially that is referring to men. So that is like previous generations of men of Vikings that are being referred to really in that runestone. But there's a little bit more to come on that, on some of the backstory, in fact.
Yeah, so it's a figure of speech.
I think that was one of the first. I think that was possibly even the first runestone that I wrote for the game, I think, because I remember, as I say, in the very early builds, there were just Surtlings and Grey Dwarves in there. So those were some of the first ones that I wrote any backstory for.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the backstory for Surtur being, a demon, a great demon, and then, the Surtlings are just, he was shattered and they're just little pieces of him. That's fun. And then, as it says here, giant warriors of whom we are just a dwindling echo. Giant, not meant necessarily to be taken literally, but giant in stature and renown and accomplishment. Yeah.
That's more what I had in mind. Yes. Yeah. For that one. But they were fun to write, particularly the Surtlings and the Grey Dwarves, the enemy descriptions.
Maybe that's a bit of a teaser for what could come in the Ashlands. Maybe Surtur will be reborn. Who knows?
Yeah.
I can't possibly comment on it.
Oh, I know. I'm not asking you. I'm just speculating.
But it's certainly worth speculating. Certainly worth speculating. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be careful. We love to speculate and not reveal anything.
I was hoping you could validate or confirm what this one is trying to explain. So this runestone is found in the plains, and it reads, "Beneath the ground are the halls of men and women long since gone, ancient tribes who lived in Valheim even before the Allfather turned his eye upon this place. Delve deep to find their treasure, but beware, some amongst them do not yet know they are dead." So I was thinking this is referring to the Draugr, based on their longer runestone, or maybe it's talking about the treasure ships that you can dig up in the meadows. But it seemed odd to find this in the plains where there isn't really any undead or any, halls of men and women beneath the ground. So I'm curious if you could elaborate on that one a little bit.
Can I make a guess
Yeah, sure.
before you answer the question?
Yeah, of course.
I believe it's I would say it's like a reference to Yagluth. That's the only undead buried in the ground I can think of in the plains. I'll go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's the backstory, if you like, the lore that I have in mind for that. I don't mind sharing, which is that in centuries past, because obviously Valheim has been, it was eons ago that Odin had exiled the Forsaken to Valheim. So in the intervening centuries, there were whole kingdoms which rose and fell in Valheim. So more on this will be revealed later, but so there were kingdoms of men, and the Draugr are now the remnants of those whole civilizations, if you like, have risen and fallen on Valheim, and Yagluth as well. In particular, the area where the plains is now, because the tribes that were ruled over by Yagluth would have existed there, and I think there's a runestone with some backstory on the Foolings as well, which talks about how they once had built cities to rival the cities of men. So, yes, as Tolkien said, it's kind of also referring to to all of the races that used to that once had cities and kingdoms on Valheim.
Okay, very cool. Thank you.
But there will be more being revealed about that very soon, I think, actually. Or quite soon. I shouldn't
Soon,
try
TM.
to put a time scale on anything.
Very soon. You've heard it here first.
Hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what mysteries you think the Mistlands will reveal down in the comments below. Go build something, be awesome, and I'll catch you next time.